Welcome, Drink with James, episode 125. I want to start out with a confession. I am hungover. I'm tired. I'm true of heart. I hope you have a good Thanksgiving. I hope you agree that turkey is a bland, flavorless meat that should genuinely be abolished. But I hope you get through your turkeys, and I hope you, I don't know. We had the freshman class recognition ceremony last night. It was amazing. It was maybe a little too amazing, and everyone in the office is dragging a little bit this week. But in general, just like one of those weeks where you guys probably had them, you have 10,000 things going on, you get to the end of it, you just feel, mentally incredibly drained, and like taking that and adding a hangover to it is just like not a great recipe for productivity. But we're gonna get it done today. I have mostly a ceremonial glass of whiskey here for you. I don't know that I can actually really drink it. I'll have a few sips maybe. But freshman class campus week just happened. It was incredible. I don't know if you all saw it. I don't know if you followed along and followed the winners of the first freshman class, but there was just 48 hours of positivity and gratitude and joy and excitement. Really, really cool to see people in the beginning of their journeys, getting an opportunity, making the most of it, being, again, very grateful and very excited and just generally stoked on life. So I feel super inspired. Once the hangover is gone, I'm gonna feel like even more ready to get back to work. Thank you again to everyone who applied. This is definitely something that we will continue to do. So we will have a freshman class of 2019, and we look forward to seeing all the applications for that then. Now, before I get into it, one thing, we went to Facebook, we went to Instagram's office here in New York and met with Christy Dash, who works on the fashion partnerships team there. And she was kind enough to let everyone take some photos, but also do a little Q&A with the influencers. And something she mentioned, part of their job is talking to like mega influencers and big brands and helping with strategy and things like that. And, people will come to her and say, struggling with the same things y'all are. My growth is stalled. I don't know what's going on. People aren't seeing my posts, et cetera, et cetera. Something she said that was interesting was just that like 9 times out of 10, when that growth is stalled, it's because the influencer, as that account gets bigger, you start thinking about it more. As you start thinking about it more, things become less natural, and people can just they can sniff that out from a million miles away. And generally when growth has stalled or when things have changed, it's because you have changed something, and you may not have even noticed it, but in her mind, most of the time people are changing, they are becoming less authentic, less organic. And I was thinking about it, it's very similar to some things that we've talked about the amount of sponsored content you have, for one, but also, if the content that you're putting out into the world is helpful, useful, and interesting to your audience, if 50% of what you're doing or showing your audience is all about you, and it's all about, how great your life is, or this event that you're going to, or this new thing that you just got, that is probably not as interesting to people. I notice it now on stories a lot. Stories were so great in the beginning because there was no sponsored content happening in them. And now I go through my stories and it seems, 90% of what I'm seeing from influencers is just like kind of boring sponsored content. One, I think that people need to do a better job of making their sponsored content interesting and feel authentic and organic. But also, you can't expect people to stick around for that long if you're just shoving advertisements in their face all day. I was also inspired recently by, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. She's at orientation for new members of Congress, and she's sharing everything, very candidly on her Insta stories. And that is, I think, at its best, what this platform can do. It can give you insight into a life that is different. It can teach you things. It can inspire you. It can educate you, all those things. So, thinking about that, and thinking about what you're publishing every day, and thinking about if it benefits you or if it benefits your follower, I think is something that is worth noting. Thinking of Ocasio-Cortez, it would be much easier for her to not publish any of that stuff. It would be easier for her, I'm sure, in one of the most stressful, busy, and exciting weeks of her life, to hunker down and completely focus and not share those things on Instagram. But it's interesting to her audience, and by proxy her voters, to get insight and gain insight into that process. And so she is peeling back a cover on that and showing us something interesting that we haven't seen before. Again, there are selfish reasons for her to do that, gaining popularity, getting prominence, all of those things. But there's also something that the followers are getting. So I think always going back to that, asking yourself if what you're putting out into the world is benefiting you or benefiting your followers, is a good way to stay in check. So thank you, Christy, for hosting us at Instagram. Thanks for letting us shoot content for 20 minutes in the lobby, much to the chagrin of Facebook employees. If any of you watch this, I'm sorry for clogging up your hallways for 20 minutes. So let's jump into it. The sooner I finish, the sooner I can go lay in a bed. Question number 1. Why do brands choose influencers who don't really care about the brand? Good question. I was thinking about this one before I came in here and asking, do you need to love a brand to promote it? I don't think so. I think that you need to believe the value proposition of that brand. You need to believe that what the brand, what you're saying is good about the brand is true. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to love it or be a customer of it. I love expensive glassware. I'm a Zalto man through and through, okay? That's a $70 wine glass. Now, there's an $8 wine glass that I love. Or no, sorry, let me say that. There's an $8 wine glass that when people ask what glasses they should get, I tell them those. I don't have them. I don't love that brand. I'm not a customer of that brand, but I know they make high quality, good looking glassware at a low price, and it doesn't break that easily. And for a lot of people, that's perfect. And so while don't love the brand, I do believe in the value proposition of it. So I think that the idea that you have to be this authentic, huge fandom of brand to support them is unrealistic. Now, influencers working with brands that they don't believe in the value proposition and they don't like the brand is ridiculous and is always a recipe for a inauthentic, terrible post. Why do brands do that? A lot of them aren't that good at this. They should be working with us, first of all. But also it's hard, it's easy to find people that love you if you're Chanel. It's harder if you're, Tide or Degree, there are certain brands that make it easy to love them. That's how the whole business model is set up. We call it emotional loyalty. Excuse me. We call it emotional loyalty, where you are irrationally loyal to a brand. And it is because for some reason you feel real, genuine affection and love towards that brand and what they stand for. It is incredibly rare in the marketing world. I'd say maybe 5% of the brands that you engage with, you legitimately love. So if a prerequisite for advertising for a brand was loving it, there would be like only ads for Nike, Chanel, Dior, and Gucci or something. So that's ridiculous. So for some brands, it's hard. You know, they have to work with influencers that don't love the brand. Ideally, those people understand the value and appreciate and believe the value proposition. So, good thing to ask yourself when you have somebody reach out to you, a brand that you're maybe not a customer of, or you haven't thought about. Look at the value proposition. Ask yourself if you believe it. Ask yourself if you feel comfortable with your followers spending their money on that product. If you feel comfortable and good about that, then I'd say you're fine to go through with the collaboration. So, question number 2 is, how do you navigate a relationship with an influencer whose engagement doesn't match their follower count? So, I'm not sure, again, if this is from an influencer working with an influencer or us working with an influencer. I'll be a little more brief this time when I explain it. One, for us, we are not looking at engagement as much anymore because we're looking at reach and impressions numbers. So if we saw that the engagement was low but the reach and impressions were where they needed to be, we would still work with that influencer. If those numbers were giving us signals that that person was buying followers, we probably wouldn't work with them. Insofar as doing an influencer collaboration or kind of working with someone who you feel like has bought followers or their engagement is all wonky, that's a personal decision. If we're talking influencer to influencer and you're asking, should I collaborate with this person? Should I hang out with them? Should I whatever? In general, my advice would be there is way too many people worrying about what other influencers are doing. There continues to be this narrative that everyone else is cheating and I'm not. And there are unfair things happening in the world. There are unfair things happening in the influencer space. There's loop giveaways. There's, people buying followers. There's people buying likes. Yes, all of those things are real. None of those things are going to give you long-term, prolonged success. And if you start looking at this as decades, years or decades instead of months, and you start looking at where do I want to be in 5 years instead of where do I want to be 5 days from now or 5 hours from now, that stuff matters a lot less. Generally, the people who cheat or hack their way into success don't find long-term sustainable success. And so in the end, those things kind of sort themselves out. I just think there's way too much energy wasted in the space complaining and worrying about what other people are doing. Does it take money away from you in the short term? Absolutely. I 100% get that, and I get that it is unfair. Again, we talk about it a lot of times, people taking drugs in sports, right? You're stealing things from other influencers. They're stealing jobs from you, they're stealing money from you, they're defrauding brands. That is super frustrating. But there's enough opportunities to go around, and again, in the end, these things will figure themselves out. Instagram has huge teams that are every day getting rid of bots, that are working on fake engagement problems. It is in their best interest to make sure you can't hack your way into the success and to make sure that the platform is built on real numbers and authentic engagement. So those things will not be a problem forever. So just worry about you. I swear it gets better. Okay, question number 3, and my last gate to cross through before my redemption. What do you do when you feel like you've outgrown a brand you've been working with? That's a good question. I don't know if you're speaking about outgrowing them from a budgetary standpoint or feeling like the brand is no longer a natural fit for you, but let's address both. If you outgrow what the brand can pay, I think that goes, I think honesty is always appreciated in business and in life. Be candid. It is okay to tell a brand, I've loved working with you and I so much appreciate the support. My rates are going up. It's totally okay to email the brand and say, you know, I've loved working with you these past years, months, whatever it might be. As you know, my following's gone up quite a bit and I'm going to have to increase my rates to reflect that rise in my following. As, you know, as a respected, like as a partner that I respect and, you know, who has been there for a while, I just wanted to tell you now and be totally candid and honest with you. Let me know if you want to jump on the phone. So that's a good, you know, that's a totally valid email to send, and I think anyone would, like any brand person would totally understand, and they will either pay those rates or say, you know, congratulations on your growth, we can't work with you anymore, wish you the best, hope we can still gift you, something like that. The way not to do it would be they reach out for a project and you just send back a price that's, you know, twice as high as it was last time you worked with them. Get ahead of the pricing issue before there's a project, you know? So let's say you haven't worked with them in 6 months, but you know you usually work with them in the holidays and it's, you know, September. So you think, okay, I'm gonna email them now, I'm gonna tell them my prices are gonna go up so we can have that conversation now. It's also just, you know, it feels more respectful and it feels like, hey, I'm thinking about you, I want to work with you, so I'm reaching out now to get ahead of this, rather than the brand person being really excited to reach out to you and work again. Because in their head, they say, I've worked with this person 10 times. We have a relationship, this is locked in, I'm good with this. They reach out, you just send back, hey, this isn't enough money. That feels kind of disrespectful in a lot of ways, even though you very likely deserve that money. There is power in the way you present the message. So that's first things first for that. Another thing is that I encourage all of you, if there's a brand that was there early, I encourage you to be loyal to that brand, and they should get something for supporting you when no one else did. So I worked for years for Oscar and didn't charge the rates that I was charging other clients because they were there early. I know Man Repeller worked with Man Repeller, like the first client that Man Repeller had was Rebecca Minkoff, and I know that, you know, she supported that brand for years after it was probably not possible for Rebecca Minkoff to pay the rates that Leandra was asking. So this business is built on relationships, and I encourage you to remember the people that were there early and reward them for that. If you do happen to achieve some sort of growth, they probably had a part in that, and you should give back a little bit. So there's that. If you feel like you've outgrown the brand from a taste, or you just don't like the brand anymore, or you feel like it is no longer representative of your taste or of what you're interested in, that's a little more difficult conversation with the same advice, I think, which is honesty. I don't know if I would go with like radical candor on that one. If we're talking about clothes, because that's the easiest thing, and you're not connecting with the collection or something, I think you could say something to the effect of, that I've been a big supporter, I love the brand. You also know that I authentically have to love something to be able to, tell my followers about it. And I'm just not connecting with this collection, but looking forward to continuing to work in the future. Thanks so much. I think that's totally fine. We've had, on the beauty side, we've had influencers, if a shade didn't match or something, back out of campaigns gracefully and say because the shade doesn't match, I just can't, or I tried the product, I don't love it, and I just can't support it and send, I can't support it and promote it to my followers because that would hurt my ability to be authentic, and we've always understood that. So honesty, candor works. Get ahead of it, and don't wait for them to be following up and asking you about it to break the bad news. So it is Thanksgiving week. I am heading down to Richmond. Y'all are heading wherever you're going. I hope you have a good Thanksgiving. So, cheers.